5:55 now. Here's a look at your Monday morning rush. Former White House spokeswoman Sarah Huckabee Sanders reportedly plans to run for Arkansas governor. This comes from an anonymous senior campaign official who spoke with the Associated Press. The current Arkansas governor cannot seek re-election due to term limits. The founder of Make-A-Wish Foundation, Frank Shankwitz, has died. He worked as a DPS trooper when he started the nonprofit. He got the idea after spending the day with a 7-year-old boy battling leukemia who wanted to be a highway patrol officer. Since then, the foundation has granted more than 500,000 wishes for sick children. Ford is recalling 3 million vehicles to replace Takata airbags that could explode in a crash. Has nothing to do with this wine or dinner. That defect prompted the largest recall in U.S. history, or more than 67 million vehicles. The recall is for the driver's side airbags. Affected vehicles include Ford Rangers, Fusions, Edge, and Lincoln MKZ. And how about enjoying airplane wine from home? American Airlines, now we see, has an abundance of wine. Travel is down, and they're launching a delivery program called Flagship Sellers. Single bottles start at $13 per bottle. There's a monthly subscription for $99. A case of American Airlines champagne cost about $400. And that is your morning rush.
Ooh, that's pretty steep. All right, 5:57 right now. An increase